There is something out there, right behind you, that you dread the most. It's inevitable, and you don't like hearing about it either. But right now, there is a particular serial killer that makes it quite fun by giving death notices to victims. In Hong Kong, Lo Fei, a police inspector, is getting ready to leave the swimming house when he gets a call from Man Wan, his fiancée. She is in trouble in a warehouse where she is handcuffed to Yuen Bong, a fellow chief inspector, who is already unconscious due to the timed bomb on his chest. The only way for them to survive is to deactivate the bomb, which Lo Fei provides an answer. But that answer is too late to make Man Wan survive. Lo Fei watches his lover die, and he is left with the only memory of their love: her ring. 10 years later, Lo Fei returns to a peaceful life in the police force to work in arms licensing, just so he could retire afterward. Even after his friend, Cheng Kok Ming, who is also a retired regional police commander, begs him not to blame himself for Man Wan's death, Lo Fei is still uninterested in anything as such. Just as Cheng returns to his studio to prepare for his flight to Hong Kong, Lo Fei notices the lights off and his inner instinct set to alarm. The deactivated elevator is the quickest way to get to Cheng, but Lo Fei takes a quick flight on the stairs, only to meet a masked man on the roof. A hot chase begins, and since Lo Fei is not one to chicken out, he pursues the intruder to the extent of flying on a rope. Despite his efforts, the masked man cuts off the rope, and this lands Lo Fei in an old woman's bathroom. It's too late, as Cheng is already dead, in his pool of blood. The police swarm the area to investigate the scene. Not just the police, but reporters snuck their way in to find out what happened to Cheng. Even the chief superintendent, Han Ho. Han tries to interrogate Lo Fei, who is in handcuffs, but the inspector tells him to go after the intruder, giving him a speculation of how the killer monitored Cheng down to the studio. Lo Fei tells them of his chance of getting the killer in 60 seconds on the rooftop since he was already late to rescue Cheng on the 5th floor. Han suspects Lo Fei as the murderer since he only has speculations with no evidence. Immediately, Leung Yarn, an inspector, finds a death notice on Cheng's corpse. A death notice only the Darker can leave. At the police headquarters, the Darker shows himself in a live press conference. Wait, don't expect a physical appearance. Just a little break-in transmission thing. The Darker hacks into the police system, only to mention his mission of punishing dishonest and wicked police officers. Maybe Lo Fei's instincts are right, Man Wan's killer has returned. What does the Darker want? Whoever the Darker is, he only wants the sword of justice to strike the wicked. Right after the interruption, the reporters flood Han with tons of questions, but the police chief promises to catch the Darker as soon as possible. Something is fishy. The police commissioner, Song, sets up a special investigation team, including Lo Fei, who attempted to catch the Darker. Until now, Lo Fei still sees his wife, or rather, he believes she is still alive and present with him everywhere he goes. The special team has Inspector Leung Yarn, who is in charge of forensics, and Song Ho Wat, a superintendent in IT. They both think he is weird. Even Han doesn't want him in the team, but Commissioner Song approves of Lo Fei's inclusion in the team as an eyewitness 10 years ago and even at Cheng's murder. The team set to work, dissecting the case of Sit Tai Lam, Yuen Bong, and Man Wan from years back. They proceed to find other related information after Lo Fei's detailed narration of the incident that happened 10 years ago. With help from Ho Wat, Lo Fei finds out that Cheng makes calls and visits a strange place in the northeast, a place called Choi Hung Wei. What is strange is that Cheng hires cargo vans whenever he visits the area. The next stop for the team is Choi Hung Wei. Brace up for what's next. Lo Fei accompanies Leung Yarn to see Tang Hua, the CEO of Kong Ho Company, only to be blocked by his assistant. But a single anonymous text to report to the station makes Tang Hua want to see Lo Fei and Leung Yarn. Despite Lo Fei's warning that he could be on the Darker's death list, Tang Hua shows the least fear. Rather, he shows the cops the death notice he received from the Darker 10 years ago. Leung Yarn and Lo Fei move on to their next stop, the only survivor from the explosion, Wang Siu Ping. After surviving 10-degree burns, he is excited to share his story for money, quite unaware of how serious the death notice can be. The film switches to show Lo Fei dragging us to the past to see what transpired. Yuen Bong had a fallout with his wife, Pak Fei Fei, who is also a friend of Man Wan. However, Pak Fei Fei drowned 2 days before the explosion, and Yuen Bong thinks it's Man Wan and Lo Fei's fault. However, let's leave whatever history they had in the past for some time later. The special team receives a clue on burner phones and IP addresses, so they head out to the location only to find a man tied with a bomb. Lo Fei attempts to touch the bomb, refusing to wait for EOD to deactivate the bomb, but Han wants none of that. Lo Fei forces his way through, and they all find out that the bomb has no explosive charge. It's only a message to legislator Han Siu Hung. She is the next on the Darker's list. Meanwhile, Siu Hung thinks it's just a letter from her opposition. But Han tells her it's a notice from the Darker due to the death of a sick patient while she led protesters on the Lungmei beach. Han warns her to stay safe indoors until the police catch the Darker, but Siu Hung doesn't heed this warning. The special team decides to use this to their advantage, allowing Siu to leave her house for the Northeast Development Forum and lure the Darker. With their men positioned around the square in disguise, the special team is ready to catch the Darker. But something strange happens. The Darker sends the death notice meant for Han Siu Hung to all the reporters at the forum. This single action makes the place rowdy, with reporters and thugs harassing her. The cops escort Siu Hung to the safe van, only to bring her to the exact place the Darker wants her. Boom! And Han Siu Hung is out of the Darker's death list. No rest for the special team as they receive another death notice, and this time, it is for a fugitive called Pang Quang Phuc. You should know the Darker loves to interrupt people, and he does this again right in the police headquarters. He shows them footage of a little torture of Pang Quang Phuc. This is when Han remembers how his colleague, Wang Chu, died at the Kwun Tong ferry where Pang Quang Phuc had a shootout with the cops. However, Han and Wang Chu's brother, Wang Kim, who is also an inspector on the special team, wants to avenge Wang Chu's death. Later that day, the Darker calls Han to make use of this opportunity and kill Quang Phuc for good, instead of trying to catch him. Lo Fei is not dismayed by this new death notice, so he returns to Wang Siu Ping again with questions. And of course, Lo Fei makes a discovery. There is something else behind the case from 10 years ago. At Siu Hung's funeral, the special team notices a strange drone, so they go after it. Guess who is behind the controls of the drone? The Darker. He leads them to a sewage plant where only 3 cops are allowed entrance. Before Han could give out directives on whom to join him, Lo Fei and Wang Kim enters. The drone leads them to Quang Phuc seated in an electronic lock and a solution from the Darker. They must press switches located in 3 tunnels at the same time. Han orders Wang Kim to do whatever he wants to do to Quang Phuc, only after they unlock him. They all proceed to find the switch, and 1, 2, 3. The electronic lock slits Quang Phuc's neck to death. When the cops return, they find the fugitive dead and a ticking bomb. Another explosion, but Han, Wang Kim, and Lo Fei are still alive. You may be wondering why Lo Fei is in handcuffs again. Let's see why too. Han finds a dent in his profile, a similar incident that happened 16 years ago where Lo Fei sent a punishment notice to a lecturer who sexually assaulted young girls. Han demands that Lo Fei be interrogated in a secret location. Is Lo Fei truly the Darker? Just when Han gives a press conference, the Darker releases another death notice. This time, it's for the fearless Tang Hua. Again, Tang Hua tells the cops that he intends to go to New York, with a strong security network. The special team insists on protecting Tang Hua until he leaves Hong Kong, leaving out Lo Fei. Meanwhile, it's just a plan. They simply want to mislead the Darker and pretend like something is wrong with their team. Instead, Lo Fei heads to find Wang Siu Ping once more. It turns out that Wang Siu Ping is the true culprit. Yuan says Bong never died, he only took Wang Siu Ping's identity after he killed Man Wan. Quite a thorough investigation, Lo Fei did a DNA test to confirm if it was truly his old friend Bong. Bong confesses that he needed time to train someone to do the job for him. To stall time, Bong challenges Lo Fei to a fight, and in this fight, the smart cop realizes that Bong is alive, but he is somewhere else. Where could that be? Right at the airport. Han, alongside the other cops, leads Tang Hua to the airport, but Bong is already there. Quite too late. While Lo Fei chases the real culprit, Han receives footage of Quang Phuc's death. The real killer of Quang Phuc is Han Ho and not the Darker. The moment he receives a call from the Darker, he sees Tang Hua, who is disguised as a bodyguard, receive a call too. Thinking he is the Darker, Han sends a bullet at Tang Hua, killing the man he was meant to protect. Meanwhile, Lo Fei finds Bong and discovers another bomb there. Fortunately, he deactivates the bomb, using his experience from 10 years ago. Bong is not who he seems to be anymore, killing his wife, friends, and rivals, all to avenge his demotion. The person pretending to be the Darker is Seven Scars, the man Bong has been training. So Han, Bong, and Scars receive the punishment for their actions. And as for Lo Fei, he no longer sees Man Wan again. The police investigation on the Darker is still ongoing, so be careful out there.